Texas Small Farmers and Ranchers CBO.
All right, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us. It's a pleasure for you to be here with us. My name is Uchenaya Ogba, and we Texas More Farmers and Ranchers. So sorry about the technical difficulties initially, but we are here and we are ready to get started. Arlena, how are you?
Hi, Uche. The guys are gonna jump on too. We kind of had a little glitch in the system.
Yes, yes, yes. I had the same issue. I had the same issue. But thank you all so much for joining us. We have a full crowd today of individuals that have joined us on this panel discussion. So we're very excited for you all to be here. So yes, as we always do every single time, we always start with an amazing poll that we like to learn more about everyone who is joining us. So I'm going to launch it right now. And if you're not familiar, the Texas Farmers and Ranchers, we help and inform farmers around the Texas region area. And when we launch this poll, it's usually an icebreaker question, right? So when you see this, I'm sure you guys probably see it. We have some Q&As, and the first question is asking, where are you joining us from? The second question is, what do you produce or hope to produce on your farm/ranch? And the third question is, what type of livestock do you raise or hope to raise on your farm/ranch? So these questions are just for us to learn more about where you are as a participant in this webinar that we have today, and an opportunity for us to learn more about you and hopefully help you in the process. So I see no one has answered, and I would love for you to participate if possible. If you're joining us from anywhere within the United States or anywhere in the world, feel free to answer that question. And if you can see the poll, everyone should be able to see the poll. There we go. We have answers coming in. There we go. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all. Yes, yes, yes. We got three. I usually allow for about 2 minutes for people to answer. So we have about another minute left. I see that 37% of y'all have participated. We'd love to have more of y'all answer the question. Okay, okay. Let's see where we are. Six. Okay, okay. More folks. We have 30 seconds left. 30 seconds left, y'all. I want to see if everyone is going to participate or not. And I see you guys see me in my car. This is where I'm working from today, which is okay. But I'm glad you all can join us as well. Let's see. All right, 10 more seconds. We're about to wrap it up. Okay, okay. And just gonna give you guys a few more seconds. All right, I'm gonna take it as an end right there. All right. Hey, Phil.
Hey, what's going on? About that, was having some technical difficulties, but I'm here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Glad to have you. Glad to have you. All right. So we had answers that came in. We had guests from DeSoto, Texas, Centerville, South Dallas, Austin, Texas, Tyler, Texas, Barry, Texas. Welcome, yo. We appreciate y'all for joining us. This is so exciting. We I think we cover all around Texas so far. And the second question was, what do you produce or hope to produce on your farm/ranch? And we had another one guest said fruits, vegetables, herbs, roses, and flowers to attract pollinators. Yes, bees are so important to the health and well-being of our garden or forest or farm in general. Another guest said beef and lamb. Okay, okay, that's awesome. Sounds like we have a produce here, and I love me a good lamb. For joining us again. So sorry about that. We had a little technical glitch, and we are back. I am not in my office, so everything's everywhere. So I take responsibility for that for y'all. But I appreciate y'all for joining us. But like I was saying earlier, like we have guests that have joined us from all over Texas, and I was going down the line as looking at some of the responses. So yes, beef and lamb. I love me a good lamb shank. So if you have some lamb for me, I'd love to purchase it from you. Like the guest that answered beef and lamb. Another guest said lettuce, bell peppers, greens, and cabbage. Love me some bell peppers and greens, y'all. Another guest said brassicas, okra, and tomatoes. Lovely. Another guest said row crops. Ooh, row crops. Okay, I'm sure. Yeah, Phil shaking his head. He knows a little bit of that. All right. Another guest said poultry, lamb, goats, and eggs. I need me some goat, y'all. Like seriously, seriously, goat meat is the best. I grew up eating goat meat. That's what I love. The last question was, what type of livestock do you raise or hope to raise on your farm slash ranch? One guest said, not applicable. Another guest said beef and lamb. Yes. Another guest said none. Another guest says geriatric chickens. What's a geriatric chicken? Maybe Phil or
Yo,
Arlena, you can explain what that is today. And another
I'm
guest said,
don't.
sorry.
I'm gonna stay away from that topic.
Okay,
I was
all
a
right, all
geriatric mom.
right. Okay.
I was a geriatric mom.
Awesome, awesome. And another guest said goats, chicken, ducks, goats, sheep, chicken, ducks, and pigs. All right, y'all. So we're so excited to have y'all today because we are going to be talking about food and not just anything about food, but where it comes from, how it lands in our plate, the importance of what fresh food can do for you, and how it can help you and your family grow, whether that's in health, whether that's in wealth, whether that's just in mind, body, and spirit, y'all. So I would like to go down the line and introduce our amazing guests, so they can introduce themselves. So I'm going to popcorn it first to Phil.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? Phil, aka P. Wade Ross, Texas Small Farmers and Ranchers, Chief Executive, and just excited to have this conversation today. I'm going to popcorn it to Arlena.
Hi, I'm Arlena, the founder and owner of Solutions Holistic Urban Farm. I'm part of the team, and I'm very excited about the topic and you guys joining us tonight.
And
Oh,
I'm Uriah Israel, father, author, and teacher. And this is a really good topic here that we need to discuss as a group.
Great, great, great. Thank you so much, y'all. Thank y'all for introducing yourself. And I'm sure as we go along with this conversation, everyone's going to learn more about who you are. My name is Uchenaya Ogba. I am the guy to handle communications with the Tech Small Farmers and Ranchers. And it's so exciting for me to present and be sort of the moderator for today's webinar with this amazing crew that I get to work with and see on a daily basis. So, yes. So, we're gonna jump right in, y'all. But first of all, y'all, I would love for y'all to drop in the chat room and let me know if you're able to use the chat because we want everyone to be able to participate. And I think that's the most important thing. So if you have a question, you have something you'd like to share, you'd like to play, would like to talk to us hosts or talk to each other, feel free to use the chat throughout this conversation. At the same time, we do have a Q&A section as well. So if you feel like, you know what, there we go. Orlando said testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, food. Love it. So at the same time, if you would like to share your questions anonymously or through our Q&A, you can do that as well. Or the other option is you can also raise your hand using the raise your hand feature on the Zoom call. So if you have any questions, we want you to be able to engage with us throughout the entire process. And don't be worried, there's no silly question. All questions are pertinent because if you have that question, trust me, there's another person that probably has the same question that they want to ask. So please, 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 we encourage you to engage. We encourage you to ask questions. Thank you, Caleb. Got you. Corey, Got you, got you. So appreciate y'all. We everyone is good to go. So I'm going to get started with the first question of the day. And Phil, I'm going to get started with you because since you head honcho, I'm gonna throw you right into the fire real quick. First question. Why is this topic? The topic is the truth about food and farming, what's really on our plates. Why is it so important right now?
Um, some of y'all may have seen the Tuesday Seeds. I didn't mean for it to be an infomercial for today, but if that's how it worked out, so be it. But um, just such an important topic. We were just talking as before we actually went live here, and all of us, everybody you see here, you know, with the exception of Uche, we're such farm nerds, whether, some of it's through the nutrition piece. For me, it's definitely soil. I know Uriah, he loves gardening and everything to do with it. Arlene is into the nutrition. So often we nerd out on that piece of it, but we have to remember, that we need to have these kind of conversations, and especially today, in a time where, you know, almost 20% of folks in their 20s can't find jobs, they're unemployed. You see what's going on with the government, folks, government workers, which is generally the most stable employment in our minds, all of a sudden they're standing in food lines, and
Hmm.
how all that ties into not only our health, but um, our nourishment, the cost of food, but also our finances, as well. So timely conversation about our food, not only what's on our plate, but how it impacts us in society today. Because I don't know about you, but with me, if there's something going on with my body and I got to go, go to the doctor, and one way or the other, it's going to cost me. So it all is intertwined now, even more so in my mind, more than any time that in my personal lifetime, we need to have these conversations because as it goes back to before, I believe personally that everybody should know or have knowledge on how to grow your own food for everything that I just said. So that's why this is so important today because we not only for ourselves but the each one teach one mentality. Because if we don't do this for ourselves, as I said in the Tuesday Seeds, there's no one here to save us. We have to save ourselves.
Thank you, Phil. That was definitely an understanding to kind of paint the picture of where we are right now. All right, I'm gonna popcorn this over to who do I want to throw in the fire? Raya, let me ask you a question. You know, what you know, right now there's a lot of talk about like, the types of food that is available, whether that's genetically created or in a lab or, pumped with hormones. So what does it mean when we hear food really isn't food right now? What does that entail?
Ooh, that's a loaded question,
Yes,
Uche. First
sir.
of all, I want to thank you guys. I thank Phil and Texas Small Farmers and Ranchers for hosting this panel. This is something that definitely needs to take place. And today we're purchasing food based upon cost and not really the quality of the food that we're buying. And we've been taught. We've been kind of tricked because a lot of things that we're buying, we don't really understand what we're buying. We're not seeing the additives that go in food. There's a ton of them. The different chemicals that are being used, the pesticides that's being used on our food, that's actually causing us to have to go to the hospitals. They're causing defects. They're causing serious illnesses, and we really need to focus on that. Sometimes when we go and shop, I don't see people reading labels anymore, and we really need to read labels. If it doesn't have like maybe 4 or 5 ingredients that I can understand, I might not buy it. I don't know what that is, I might put it back on the shelf because I know that it's going to have a long-term effect on my body. And as we get older, we want to make sure that we're in the best health that we can be in. Sometimes I'll go to the store and different people will say, well, "Why are you buying? That's expensive." It's going to be expensive either now or it's going to be expensive later when you're wheeling me into the emergency room or whatever because my body's not functioning properly. And this is the reason why this discussion needs to happen today. Going back to your original question, Uche, and these are some of the things that we need to be concerned about. I'm gonna wrap this up. My father had always taught me to think right, live right, eat right, and you will be all right. But we have not really been taught how to eat right. We used to like when we used to shop for groceries. I remember my mother going to farmers markets back in Boston. She used to literally pick stuff up and look at it, smell it, and say, "No, I don't want those. I want these." And she was very selective about what she was purchasing. We're not doing that today. People are buying stuff based upon the price, and that might be to the detriment of our community. Okay, and yeah.
Thank you so much, Uriah, for that insightful information. You are absolutely right. It's people are shopping based on price. I've been one of those people where I'll see, like just take for example, pack of chicken. I'll be like, "Ooh, what is this all natural and what is this? Why is this so much cheaper?" And I'll just go for the cheaper version. And then I started learning about how they are pumping hormones or antibiotics into some of these chicken. And like, I
Mm.
was like started going, even though yes, it's more expensive, but I realized that, I felt healthier. I felt a little better in my system. I felt that I was doing better to make sure that I was taking care of my body. And like you said, you either pay for it now or you pay for it later. I'd rather make those small increment payments right now than having to get, as y'all know what's going on in the world, healthcare is so important and 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 it's ballooning right before our eyes. So it's such an impactful thing so far. Thank you so much, Ryan. All right, I have another question. Arlena, this is for you. This is for you, and it's for everyone really. But Arlena, I think you are not a resident farmer, but you are intertwined into farming, and you are a farmer, and everyone else here farms as well. But how did we get here? Like, how do we get to this current stage of with our food and agriculture? Like, what can you share with us more of like what happened?
Greed. The need to make profit brought us here. The need, it wasn't because we needed to feed so many people, it was the need to make profit. So, prior to colonization, the natives were growing food in abundance. They were storing it up, they were preserving it, and there was plenty of food to go around, food to share, food to bring to other communities that had needs, sick and ill, you name it. Food was medicine, food supply, structure, weapons. It was a full part of our whole life. If you visit the Dallas African American Museum, there was a map of Dallas in the 1930s, 40s. They had a produce stand on every other block. It wasn't the need for it, access was not the problem. It was just greed. High production. So pushing and pushing crops that made the most money actually changed the foundation of how food was made in America. Cotton was a high production, high need crop. They wanted to push cotton. So why pay workers? Let's go ahead and just snatch up some nationalities in the trade. Let's send some money over to England and let's push and use free slave labor. So greed has really pushed food production and really where America is. It started out with just greed, and that is what happens to our food supply.
I'm gonna hit on that too, because it's so important to understand 100 years ago, we all were farmers. We just were. We grew our own food. And right around 100 years ago, we about 900,000 black farms across America. Fast forward to today, just a little bit over 40,000, or just under 40,000. But again, that's based on census and all that. But a big, big change. But what happened, especially between 1950 and 1969, is black farms based on policy. Just go, you can look all that stuff up. I won't go too deep down that rabbit hole. But black farms, black landowners were losing between 1950 and 1969, losing land at 826 acres a day, y'all. So you throw in what happened after World War II and the mass, the need for mass production and feeding. Policies went in place in the 1960s through especially 1980, where before small farmers, we fed our communities, we fed the world. Now that's shifted, just through policies to big agriculture. So what comes with mass production is over processed food, for and preservatives and everything that Arlena and Uriah are saying. At the same time, as small farmers were squeezed out, guess who was put on the sideline, to the point where, hey, ain't enough room in here for even us small farmers. So y'all, we're gonna push you all the way out. So what happened was we put down our rakes, put down our shovels, and we haven't picked them back up. And it's showing up. It's showing up in our communities because, grandma, big mama and them was growing. They did have their own, you know, vegetable edible garden always. We got away from that. I talked to Uriah and I ran into, I think I said on one of my Tuesday seats, we were up in Dallas doing a conference and a young lady, a little 11-year-old girl came by and she had her face scrunched up. And she was like, "You guys are farmers? She said, isn't that slaves work?" But she said it, but that's the mentality that we have adopted as folks as a whole. I know some of you, just hearing what I heard earlier, are, you're not that. But what we have to do is be the early adapters and bring the rest along for everything I just opened up with. Our food, our food is not only our nourishment, it needs to be nutrient dense. There's a difference between what we were consuming, in 1970, what we're consuming now. And that's by design. And guess what? It's keeping us digging further and further in our pockets. And that's what this conversation is about. How do we reverse those things?
Arlena?
Yes, I wanted to share in some of the processing of food now, the ultra processing and being driven by profit. There are studies that showing that there are ingredients added to your food to make you addictive. So they have studied how much of the three trifectas can actually stimulate your opiate sensors in your brain, your pleasure sensor in your brain, which is normally, excuse me, between my 6-year-old and his blue healer, it is always some drama around here. Um, so, yes. Oh, so the opiate receptors in your brain. So they've learned that there are certain levels of sugar, fat, and salt that stimulates the opiate receptors and make you addicted, like cocaine. And so manufacturers have decided to hire some chemistry and biologists. I know, I saw that job application to micro pulverize those three trifectas to put into foods so that when you eat it, it actually overrules your urge to say that you're full. It overrules the need to say I've had enough of that. It even overrules your genetics and your homeostasis of your body. Your body says, based on genetics, I can only eat so much food. I'm only this size. So now America is fatter than any other country. And so you'll notice when y'all go back to them class reunions, the girl that was always real small and petite, she could eat a whole horse, and now she huge. Don't say nothing smart. Watch your mouth.
No, you're
Okay,
answering.
but that is genetic from our food. And
Yes.
so Frito-Lay actually are true in what they say. You cannot eat just one bite. It is addictive. And then when you become too addictive, this is a study that I had to work on in my getting my degree. If it becomes too addictive and your brain eventually goes, I've had enough of it because I've eaten it so much, I'm tired of it. They change the ingredients to make your brain think it's something different. So every holiday, that addictive food like Oreo cookies, they change it. The cookie starts to have sprinkles in it and it's red and green. They took the Twix. We became desensitized to Twix. We had eaten so many, it wasn't addictive enough. So they put the inside on the outside and the outside on the inside. And those techniques, putting the white Reese's cups, that is a marketing tool to make sure that you remain addictive to it. And so food right now is not nutritional anymore.
Wow.
It's just a marketing tool.
Wow. Thank you. And thank you, Phil. That's definitely insightful for sure, because understanding what type of food is coming into our bellies and what we are purchasing on the store shelves, and understanding the history behind that is so impactful in how we move forward. Well, let me divert this question to Uriah then, because I think this is also important. So how can Uriah, how can people take these small steps towards eating food that actually nourishes them? Like what can we do to avoid these additives and terrible food, and to really kind of reverse some of the things going on right now?
That's a great question, Uche. And I just want to really quickly mention too, before I even answer that, is that we have a lot of foods right now that have a lot of, even if you're trying to eat healthy, you're juicing, you're trying to make your own juices, you're cooking at home, you're buying the produce from the supermarket. Many of the foods that we're eating today have a lot of pesticides on them. And so these have been shown to cause premature birth, reproductive dysfunction, heart disease, cancer, and other bunch of other disorders. And so, like, I think anybody, you can probably Google this, and this one of the steps that you can take to answer your question is really look at. You have two different lists. One is called the Dirty Dozen, and the other one's called the Clean 15. And you can look those up, and they'll show you like what particular crops have the most pesticides on them. And I'm just going to read a little bit of this because I have it here in front of me. One of them, number one, is spinach, and I never really knew this. This is like some of the new information. But spinach, strawberries, kale, collard, and mustard greens, which I really like. Right, grapes. I love grapes, but they're part of the dirty dozen. They are sprayed heavily with pesticides. Right, peaches, cherries, nectarines, pears, apples, blackberries, which used to be cool, but now it's new in 2025. Blueberries and potatoes. And wow, how can you spraying something that grows underground? That's like, to do that, it's going to take a lot of pesticides and a lot of work to do that. Now, those are the dirty dozen. You really have to clean those. And I'm not sure if you can really remove the pesticides that those particular plants are grown with. I know I wash my vegetables. I wash everything. Vinegar, water, is what I normally use. Even when I'm, like my grapes, I will put my whole thing of grapes in vinegar and water. But I'm thinking now that might not be enough. One thing I will say is try to know, especially where we are, especially as growers, agri-curious, always like visit your farmers markets, ask people like, what are the ways that what kind of pesticides do you use on your site? You're selling this produce. Can I visit your site? How do you do this? Are you using any chemicals to stop the insects and the pests? Tell me about your growing process, because many times we'll hear like, a person might not say they're organic, but they just have not purchased, got the license to be considered organic, but they're using methods that are probably cleaner than somebody that's organic. And they just happen to be, I'm not going through the whole process of the money to call myself organic, but I grow very natural. And they will share that with you. Another thing, I just want to read the Clean 15 vegetables and fruits. Clean 15, number one is pineapple. That's a really safe. They said that particular fruit has probably the least pesticides on it. Sweet corn, both fresh and frozen, avocados, papaya, onions. We use a lot of onions in the house, right? I think most black folk use a lot of onions, right? I know we do. Sweet peas, asparagus, cabbage, watermelon. Watermelon is one of them clean 15, right? You gotta have that watermelon. That's probably why it's so good. Number 10, cauliflower. Number 11, bananas. 12 mangoes, 13 is carrots, mushrooms is 14, and 15 is kiwi. So like just kind of like be aware, and I think they put this list out every year because they're always changing things, and you just want to be aware for you and your family. Say like, man, look at this, right? This is on the Dirty Dozen list here. This spinach is on sale, but it's on the Dirty Dozen list. I gotta look at this thing really closely and my thing, and one last thing is to know your growers. Get in the habit of going to farmers markets, know what's in season, know what is growing where you are. What's the local footprint? Is it coming from look in California. Is it coming from Baltimore, Maryland, or somewhere? What's growing where you are? What's in season? So you know that it is really truly fresh. And normally they didn't use any preservatives to keep it red or yellow or healthy while they transport it from one end of the earth to the other. And so yeah, the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15 is one good way that you can start.
Hey, let me jump on that because
Yes, I was about
that
to push. I was about to throw that to you, Phil.
hey, I know I saw that look in your eye. Uh, but I put the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15 that link in the chat. But for some of us who have a problem tiptoeing over to our kids' pantry and dipping in there, I wanted to share some because that was a great list, especially of produce and being aware of that, which I know is our audience that's listening right now. But also for foodies and food junkies like myself, it's important to also understand that such things as artificial dyes, over-processed flours, artificial sweeteners falls on that list to avoid, along with it can go on and on and on. I don't want to go too far that down that rabbit hole. But then on the other side, some of the things that are surprisingly good to eat, like there's a bad stigma with eggs and all of pasture grown eggs are good. I'm talking about the yolk, all that. So research that on your own. There's some stigmas that say that that's not a good thing. Even dairy, there's a stigma that says dairy is bad, but guess what? If it's fermented and it's not over processed, such as things such as yogurt and kefir, that's good. That's great for your gut health. The other thing I think we miss a lot of times is the vegetable oil. Some of you guys may be seeing that in the news. Look into that because if you can steer closer to the extra virgin olive and coconut oils, that's where you want to be. There's a list. I forget what it is. It's not the Hateful Eight or something they call. I forget what the nickname is, but there's a list of vegetable oils that literally were created for machinery. But however, just like we talked about with the food, once we got to the, post World War II and the mass production, you know, certain minds went to, okay, how can we start creating oils that are cheaper but we can use them for mass production on food. So they started labeling, and keep in mind, if they label it, we're conditioned to trust that what they say is correct. Not always the case when it comes to food consumption. That stuff is not created for food consumption, and a lot of the diseases that you see prevalent today, didn't exist post World War II because we were using the olive oil, we were using the right oils versus some of these things that they're passing off as edible oils right now. So, looked at again, I don't want to go too deep down there. I just wanted to get kind of hit on some of us who be creeping over to that pantry. Some of the other things that we want to be aware of that are impacting our health, and we just don't know it because we're not talking about it.
You are absolutely right, Phil. I'm one of those that will be creeping into the pantry sometimes, and I need to start curving that all the way. But Phil, I'm gonna throw another question back to you now. So Ryan talked about how we need to start talking to our local growers about where their food is coming from and how the food is grown. And I know you are a proponent on soil health. How does soil health affect
Yeah.
human health? And how can can you delve into that a little bit for us?
Yeah, yeah. Going back to what we were just the question you had before, we really want to lean on foods that were grown that are whole, and grown naturally and closest to that. Is it okay to eat processed food and stuff like that? You know, I I'm gonna still dabble in it, but in moderation because you don't want to do anything. But going back to the soil and the question, everything starts in the soil. Um, I used to, believe such things as, hey, you got to be careful eating certain amount of red meat. Well, absolutely. If that red meat isn't grown in the right soil that's nutrient dense and eating things that are grown, excuse me, and that are in nutrient dense soil. It's all just like Arlene has said before. That's it. It all goes back to your soil, understanding the ecosystem, understanding, how nature works and the mineral cycle. Because if your food is grown the right way in healthy soil and regenerative, which is something we'll get into when people use the word regenerative, all that's saying is that you've built your soil to a point where it feeds and regenerates its own self. So all starts in the soil. You can be take a class with the top master gardener and be in the best master gardener program in the world. If they don't know how to establish and maintain solid, healthy soil that's nutrient dense, it don't matter. Yeah, you're getting sunlight, you're getting water, you're getting everything you need to grow a plant, but the biggest piece of that is your soil. It all starts with the soil, and that's what we start with. Anytime education, sometimes people want to go past the, learning about the soil. As you see my little microscope there, I'm kind of a soil nerd, and they want to get to the growing of their favorite vegetables or, hey Phil, tell us about the manure, the compost. All that's great, but if you don't understand why you're doing that, then you're going to miss the point. It's all about establishing strong, healthy soil and understanding the principles behind what's going to keep that soil as healthy as possible. Because when you see um, plants that are withering or dying or diseased, we want to go to pesticides or trying to kill whatever is on there. You don't have to worry about that. If the soil is healthy, that plant is going to be healthy. And guess what? If that plant is healthy, diseases don't attack insects and pests don't attack healthy plants. They attack disease plants. Now, will you have some mixed in there? Yeah, nature will generally it is will get his or hers. Mother Nature will get hers, we'll say. But guess what? Generally speaking, if you have healthy soil, then your plants are going to be healthy. So why not start there versus treating all the symptoms that we talk about? And that goes to our health, our food, our Dr. Bill. Everything is associated with the soil and understanding what makes soil healthy.
Thank you so
Hey,
much.
I want to like add on to what Phil was saying. So like, like I think earlier I mentioned that we've all kind of been We've been educated as far as how to grow food. And it did start in the 40s, 50s. All of a sudden, all these new methods were introduced, and they weren't necessary. Put a lot of people in debt, hurt a lot of people, and so like now today we have to go back to the methods that like that our foreparents were using, and I think that's the big issue right there. We've kind of strayed away from the basics of like growing food and taking care of the earth, being true stewards of the earth. I do want to say that some people, I'm shocked that like a lot of people really don't know how to cook today. They're not choosing proper vegetables. And this is serious. It starts, the charity starts at home, right? So the first thing is like, you make sure I'm choosing not the cheapest thing, but the best thing for my family, for my child, for my husband, for my wife. Make sure they're getting healthy habits, healthy food to live and be strong, right? And so then, of course, now you want to say, something, why are they charging so much for for this spinach? I know it grows really fast. Let me start growing it at home. And then you say like, wait a minute, what's up with this soil? And so everything is built upon that. And we know we really need to just start where you are, grow where you are, and really begin to embrace this lifestyle. It doesn't take a lot of people to cause this to shift either. We already know that it's only like 1% of the people of the population of planet Earth that actually feeds the planet Earth. So a big movement can start with a small group of committed people, right, and do this. And I tell you something, you say, hey, I don't get several acres. Guess what? My best garden projects happen in a small plot in my backyard. I didn't have to contend with the deer, the rabbits, gophers, all these things. And I look back, I said, wow. So, we really need to just like grow where you are. It doesn't take a lot of land, doesn't take anything, but we have to do it for our health, our safety, and for our people. Yeah.
Thank you, Raya. Elena.
I was going to share, this is something that came to me recently. When you focus on the soil, if it affects all of these key factors, the cell biology, which is healing, disease, and health, nutrition, the stability and production of your garden or farm, holistic healing, which goes outside of the body, but holistically, nature, and the climate is affected by the soil. There are four words that I use when educating. These are the four key words. It's the soil, microbes in the soil, reciprocity, and stewardship. When the four of those are a constant cycle, constant cycle. Oh, that's a new thing. When you focus on those four things, you can change your health, the state of your health, the state of how your garden is growing, what is going on with your healing, whether it's pharmaceutical or holistic. Still goes back to the soil. I can take a herbalist and tell them you don't want some herbs to heal someone if it's being grown in chemicals. You don't want a garden that's growing produce in chemicals and it lacks nutrition content. And the climate, flooding, which I did not open my mouth because it was a sensitive topic. Flooding, extreme heat, and storm systems can be rectified and reversed by working on the soil. So those four things is very, very important. We're gonna put them in the chat. The soil is the center of it, and surrounding it are the microbes, reciprocity, and stewardship, which is your relationship to the soil. It's a mirror. It's a give and take. It will take care of you if you take care of it.
All right, Elena. Please put in the chat, share with everyone. That is essential to everyone. Now, let's move this along. I know time is of essence, and I got plenty of questions, but I'll try to keep it short for everyone as well. So, I have a question for everyone, okay? All of y'all. And this is about food systems access and equity. Why does local food matter in today's global economy? Please
Goodness.
chime in. And anyone can start. I want everyone to respond accordingly. Raya, you want to get us going?
Why does local food matter? Well, I can name two good reasons. A number one, um, there's a movement right now called the local food movement. We're not we really need to be part of that movement. And that basically is we're producing, growing, creating added value products right here where we are. You are present and committed to making sure food is grown on your site, or you're making certain things. This is something that it's something that we used to do. We were the growers. We canned and provided the best of everything. And all of a sudden we got educated, and now we're like we've kind of walked away from this, and we have to get back. And this is what's going to happen too while we're watching all of this they said USDA and the food stamps and these things are going to disappear. We're going to have to go back to what we used to do to feed ourselves, and I think that is going to cause us to be more healthy. I do believe, like in the second part of that is I think that locally grown food a lot of times that you can't afford to buy all these pesticides and things like that. You really using basic do it yourself techniques of making sure that your food is coming up. You're caring for it. We are all I'm about to go radical. We are all we are a unit. Plants and humans are together. We are all living beings, and this is what we've used plants as like this like a rock, like it's not alive. It's alive. It feels you, it hears you, it knows. It's like, man, Phil is sad today. What's going on with him? We're connected, and we've lost that. We got like hoodwinked, and we need to get back to that. And this is what causes. This is the reason why local. This is one reason why local food is so valuable is that the farmer is in touch with his crops, with his livestock. He knows the personalities. He knows the crops that he's growing. He knows the cattle. He knows them by name. And so it's different than us using like a big old factory to have chickens in or bigger. This is what makes the eggs bad. Phil mentioned about the eggs is how they're doing it. It didn't used to be this way. Now they have these gigantic factories, these big old buildings where they're just growing eggs. That can't be healthy for you. It's not healthy. It's just they want to make it cheaper. And so these are some of the things that we're looking at right here. We've lost, and I'm going to wrap it up right here. We lost the true value of food. We don't know what a real loaf of bread, somebody who made 10 loaves of bread in their kitchen using the best ingredients, using the best, the care, the love. When you have a bad attitude and you're making somebody's food, you need to stop. Don't make the food if you're in a real bad attitude. Here you are making what's it, minimum wage, and you're cooking me something to eat. I don't really want it. If it's gotta be, I want it made with love. You care about it. You humming. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna eat that. But like we've gotten to a place where local food really has not we have to embrace it. It's going to cost a little bit more, but it's probably is the healthiest thing that you can do. Know your farmers, go to your farmers markets, meet the people there. Food transcends nationality. It transcends color. We gotta rise above this. Meet your farmers, visit their farms, and really embrace like exactly what true food is.
Thank you, Raya. I appreciate that. You are absolutely on
I'm
point.
gonna let
Phil?
Arlena go. I was trying to let you go, Arlena.
All right,
Thank
Elena.
you. I was over here like, ooh, ooh, ooh. I'm gonna raise my hand again. This is a very, very important subject to me. I returned to school and turned that biology and clinical lab science degree to public health and learned the facts on what I was suspicious of. But the local food, yes, 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 the local food, when you control a community's food, you
Hmm.
control that community. And so is going on when you don't consume local food. If the food is imported, they choose what you're eating, what are they putting into it to import it, and they can influence with racial disparity. And unfortunately, that is a fact in America. They can take the less nutritious, the less productive produce and not bring it to your neighborhood. So that's why it's important for food to be local because it needs to be grown for you, for your needs, and to supply the needs of your community. Also, when food is local, it is culturally specific. If you are in a community and your family and y'all grew up on collards and you grew up, what made your family healthy and as a unit? Because we used to do family dinners. You know, grandma and grandpa supplied the produce. My grandmother used to make me pick purple whole peas, 5 gallons of them. There was 10 5-gallon barrels. I used to be like, oh my God, it's gonna take me 3 days. And we would pick, and I would shell peas. And then she'd be like, get in the truck. Where we going? We would go into town and bring the peas to the mom who had lost her husband or she had 7 kids. And she grew it and she fed the community. So we came together as a community. Someone grew this, someone grew that. So now they have oppressed and weakened our community by supplying food that is not as nutritious. We are genetically designed. We are the most strongest athletes, the engineers, the doctors, the scientists. We are the pinnacle in our DNA. But even though we're not enslaved anymore, we are still being afflicted and oppressed through our food. You can't survive without food and water. So what go, okay, well shoot, just dump all the food, give them the least nutrient dense food. It has the most chemicals in it and the most contaminated water comes into the black and brown community. And I can prove it to you because I live in a food desert and a food swamp. Oak Cliff is a mission in itself. I feel like a little bitty Supergirl in what was Gotham City, what was Batman Gotham City. It's everything all around. They all need rescuing. We do not have in my community. I'm gonna name some places that we do not have. I have to drive over 7 to 8 miles for a Sprouts, Whole Foods, Natural Groceries, Trader Joe's, or simply a HEB does not exist in this part of Oak Cliff. I live south of 35. I'm at the very bottom of Dallas, where it turns into Duncanville and Cedar Hill. Well, guess what? If I go 10 to 15 miles north, they gain 20 years of mortality on their life because they have all of those grocery stores that I named to you. In addition to them limiting them with access and them limiting this community with food, when I drive to the Kroger's outside of my neighborhood, they got food that's not even on the shelf in the Kroger's in my neighborhood. So I have a Kroger's, but I just happened to be out of town. I was visiting someone. I was at an event. I said, well, let me stop in the Kroger's. I was on the phone with Phil. I was like, I gotta get out of here. I'm gonna spend all my money. They got whole milk, they got cheeses, raw honey, nuts, and just all this amazing food. And I was like, we don't have this in my Kroger's. It's intentional by design. So that's why local food is so important. And I stress that not only do we have to grow the food, I have a high Hispanic population. So I am learning to grow chayote. I'm learning to grow Nepal cactus. I'm learning dishes from a Mexican student because that is what my community thrives on. And so that if I want to this community to thrive, why would we feed them something that's not native to their bodies and what supports their community? And that's my spill on that.
All right, I'll bring up the rear, but I don't see a lot of questions in the chat. But even if y'all have comments, I see Miss Veronica, she had one. So if y'all do, we do want to leave time for that. I know Uche has a ton of questions coming up too. So let's be conscious of that because we do want to hear from y'all. But to chime in, absolutely, absolutely, all that's been said here. I'm gonna hit two main things and we'll move on because y'all did such a job of tearing that up. Number one is that nutrient density. Um, is a big reason for local food. When it's not sitting on a shelf and being shipped and it's probably being consumed at the highest nutrient density level, which means not only better health for us, but better nutrition. You ain't got to eat as much, so that right there helps with weight loss. Some of the food that we're saying isn't really food. Sometimes that is what looks like food, vegetables and things like that, but they have sat, and just due to just age and travel and everything else that comes with it, even if they haven't pumped any preservatives or pesticides into it, it still is not the most healthy food. So we just wanted to say that. The other thing is a big reason to go local and to really support localized food production. And we'll share more about what that kind of looks like on some of the things that we're doing. It's really just policy. Arlena just mentioned, Whole Foods and Sprouts and Kroger's and HEB. They're not buying from our farmers, and a lot of that is due to some of the policy that we don't even know exists, but foots are on our necks, especially here in Texas. Y'all seen what was going on with the redistricting. That stuff is going on in the food system as well. And it has us on the outside looking in, to the point where black truckers and chambers of commerce are contacting us saying, "Hey, where all the black farmers at?" And we're operating in such silos for so long, we don't even know what's happening to us. We don't even realize it's just become our new normal. So that I just wanted to throw that in there too. Um, why you want to go local with this things, why we want to start going to our local churches and not only educating them how to grow their own fresh community gardens for their congregation and the people that they support, but how can they monetize that? How can we create our own economy just like every other ethnic group? And don't get caught up in that reverse racism stuff that they talk about, because guess what? Every other ethnic group, we're the only ethnic group that's caught up in that. Every other ethnic group ain't falling for the okie doke. They already know the game is rigged. They already see what's going on. So they never stop producing their own food. You don't believe me? Go to your community and see what's out there in them grocery stores. They're Hispanic, there's Asian, ain't us. There's Cuban, go on down the list. And guess what? They're taking those other dollars too. If somebody wants to come in their community, just like what Arlena said, and spend money because the food is good, that's all good. That's all fair game. That's called free market. But we got to get out of that mind control, that mental conditioning that says, "Hey, what's going on now? Status quo is okay." Because as I started off saying, y'all, ain't nobody gonna come save us. We got to start establishing things for ourselves. So that's really what we're talking about. We're just trying to bring it back to the food so we can have this conversation and roll it back out again to y'all. But it's time to start taking action in the right direction.
Thank you so much for those answers, everyone. That was absolutely insightful. So I guess my next question is for you, Phil. Let's start off with you again. Where's the money for small farmers? Where's the money? Like
So
how? Yes, Phil, go right
so
ahead.
it's there, but like I said, the game is rigged. That's why all of a sudden, so you're clicking on the news and you're seeing other farmers having town hall meetings all of a sudden. Those same ones who were getting all the money and subsidies. So the game is rigged. And part of what I talked about in the history, now we're at a point where farming is hard to make money if you're doing it the way we're talking about, that you guys are thinking about doing it, because the only way you can really make true money is through subsidies, and you got to have big farms and big machinery and lots of land and contracts, and a on ramp to be a part of that. That ain't what we're talking about here. So the good news is we ain't caught up in that, so we ain't on the news. The bad news is we missed out on a lot of money over the years, but it is what it is. The game is rigged for the big guys. Has been since the 1980s when there was this big shift in policy. With that said, there's so much money in direct marketing. You know, you got, like we said, we can create our own economy, starting with food, because we all got to eat. Guess what? Our neighbors got to eat too, no matter what color they are. So going back to what Uriah said, I'm gonna leave some meat on the bone here for Uriah to hit this, because this is really his wheelhouse. We do a lot of presentations together, and he does a great job with this. But there's so much in selling directly, whether you're selling to your neighborhood grocery stores or to your neighborhood restaurants, or even doing boxes where you're selling or to pantries or to your own community and delivering boxes. So many different ways to do that. You can go wholesale where you're going to community organizations, community centers, churches, your schools, hospitals, things that are, I know Uriah does a lot of work with the elderly homes and things like that. So you can go that route. There's agritourism that's big, bringing folks by your farm. Let's create a tour where there's edible tours with our urban gardeners where you can go through different gardens and start tasting their food and people start understanding what's available. So many different ways. There's trucking that's attached to farming. There's seeds. There's seedlings. There's natural how to create natural fertilizer. There's equipment maintenance. Goes on and on and on. So I'm gonna stop there because I'm probably stepping on what Uriah wants to share or enhancing what he wants to share. But there's so much money. It doesn't have to be this huge thing. It just has to be us getting together, being like-minded. We can centralize it around our churches if we want. They need to fundraise. Last time I looked, a lot of the churches are looking to do things such as fundraise, and they have a congregation of folks in there who are affected by their food and impacted by their food with diseases. We could kill all this with one bird a lot of birds with one stone, I'm trying to say, by really focusing on food not only as nourishment, but as medicine and as money. I'm gonna give
Woo.
it to you, Uriah.
Man, look, you touched all the bases. But I will say you said something really powerful, Phil, and you know, find your like minds. That's all I gotta say. You into this? It might not be your mama and them and whatever your relatives. Find somebody who's into what you're into and just say, hey man, I got a little quarter acre here. My backyard is really big. Let's do something. And just pool your resources. It's wide open. Phil, you was going on about the different you found like the different income streams that can come from land. It's infinite. It really is. But you do have to work together, find somebody who you can work with and just say, hey, let's do this. We got like 3 bushels of tomatoes. What are we gonna do? Now you gotta can it. Now you gotta like find some recipes and make something with it. Now here goes the cottage law. Yeah, you can't sell it for what you want to give for it. Give it away. Just give it away. Just like you don't know how you're going to cause somebody to rethink how they're thinking. You made this. This was excellent. Yo, what? How much would you charge for this? But we have to somebody said we're not in physical slavery. No, we're not in physical. We are in
Yeah.
mental bondage right now, which is even worse. It's like when you every day you trudge off to a job that you can't stand, and you have to punch a clock for somebody that doesn't really like you, and you're doing this work, and you really want to do this. You think that you have to get a degree. My father didn't have a degree. He fed the whole neighborhood. He was the only person growing crops in the neighborhood. He would bag it up. So so so
Okay,
so yeah.
so
Yeah,
so
oh,
I,
hey,
I want to
go ahead.
piggyback off that too, man, because
Yeah.
just imagine we talked about churches.
Yeah.
Imagine every black church, which typically owns a lot of land. It's just imagine them, each one of them starting their own community gardens and getting educated on what that looks like, and hand picking 10 or 15 people in their organization to join us or join up with Texas small farmers and ranchers to get educated and go back and do that. Imagine landowners, all this air property, and I got it in my own family. We got 120 acres, and and they're broken up into different plots. But I can tell you right now, at least 80 of them are just sitting there because folks are fighting over who has control when they could be leasing that land out or renting it out to growers, or to just somebody who owns cows who needs more space to graze. There's so many different things we can go, just like what you said, Uriah, if we unlock our brains and allow us to get outside of status quo
Yeah.
in a system that has trained us to think in just one linear way. And then everybody else is just getting rich off of us.
Yeah.
It's just
You,
it's
hey
a
Phil,
mindset, but we can change that right now, y'all.
yeah, you mentioned the churches. I wrote that down, find a local church. Because I worked with seniors at one point where I was doing, this was in Atlanta though, I was doing garden installations at senior homes. And like I would have a room of, it could be 50 people. And I said, who wants to be part of the garden club? And it'd be two people. Everybody else would be like, no, no, you're right. We passed that. We don't do that no more. But I had two committed people that would say, yes, I want to do it. And they were committed to doing it. They would take care of it. I would install it. And you got to find, once again, it goes back to a number one, it does not take a lot of people, but you do have to find the like minds and just say, like, hey, we're going to get this. And you might be the spearhead. But like that's what's going to have to take place. Hey, look, there's a story called The Little Red Hen, and like she wanted to, real quick, she wanted to, who wants to help me plant the seeds for this wheat? Who wants to help me do it? Everybody was like, not I, not I, not I. And then when it was time to eat the bread, everybody was like, yay, let's eat the bread. She said, not so, and she shared the bread with her chicks and closed the door on them. That's what's going to go down. Um, Find your like minds. Sometimes you got to do it by yourself. But if you start doing it, I'm pretty sure some people's going to say like, "Hey, I see. Can I? I have something to contribute. I can labor or whatever." Phil, you mentioned the boxes, community service, agriculture, supported agriculture projects. It could be start small. The first community supported agriculture project I was a part of was in Boston, Massachusetts, over about 30 years ago. A little raggedy little thing. These I used to walk away with a box of food every week and I would bring it home and basically had to share it with my whole family. We lived in a three-story building. I used to give my mother something and my brother something, and I would take the other part and kind of juice it or whatever. And because I didn't know what to do with most of the stuff, I was like, I have never seen this vegetable before. But we all ate from it. They didn't know where I was getting it from. I just knew it was where we were supposed to be at. My father was doing this type of thing. And we have to get back to, don't be afraid to start small, some little spot. Just do your thing. Find your like minds. And one last thing I do want to mention is study the cottage law. Like how can I make something and really from my house and say like, hey Phil, hey Arlena, I got these preserves I made. I can make it and bring it directly to you. Like learn how to work it. This system is slowly collapsing around us. They've taken away all the funding and all that type of stuff, and we have to go back to what we know. Like I always say in my presentations, we are the solution, and we have to demonstrate to people they're looking. They want to see what you're gonna do. They want to see what you're gonna do, Arlena. They said like, what Arlena gonna do? What
I'm
Phil
on the
gonna do?
ground. Don't ask me because you ain't gonna be ready for my answer. Don't ask me. Boots on the ground over here.
They know who
Uh,
the rabble rousers are. There they are right there. What y'all gonna do? We grown
that's
food.
Funny because I told Phil today I'm starting to get, I'm used to now already when they're giving me the looks. Then there she go. Now I know I'm the trendsetter. They know I'm going against the grain. If you give me the opportunity to open my mouth, I'm going to say what needs to be said. I'm not going to edit
Yep.
it and soften it for you.
Nope.
And so I'm used to that now. When they go, oh, here she come. There
Yep.
are those that want to listen. I wanted to say we're talking about food, we're talking about the black community, and we're talking about the church. And I work very closely with the church, raised in the church. I'm kind of a PK, but not a PK because I try to. He kind of came in late, so I try to say I'm not a PK. But this two things. One of them I actually kind of two things. Yes, one, cottage laws are changing. The workaround and what I shared with Phil, the way that we can make sure, because they're still trying to figure it out. They're changing it. They're changing policy to this. I took a cottage law class to what was a very reputable organization that was over food markets in Texas. Yeah. And they were teaching the class and there was so many questions going to the person moderating. She was like, I gotta check. Well, I'm not sure. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't sit on here for an hour and get off just even more confused. But the most important thing is to be trained on proper food safety. If as long as you know to sanitize that jar when you put that pickles and vinegar in there, as long as you know to clean it, because it's not the old days. They knew how to do it back in the day. They boiled it. As long as you know how to properly handle that produce coming out that soil back in the jar, we can find a way for you to sell it to the community. That's the key. Because we don't want to make our community sick. But the big point that I wanted to make about the money and buying locally and buying from our community and finding people like minded is we have to check our heart, your intention and your heart when partnering with people. And that is going to be my theme for the next 12 months. When an organization or a person comes to me, you want a guard. I want a guard and show me how to hold on. Let's sit and talk and I want to know where your heart is and what your values are. Because if you are looking to get something out of it or you looking to be to eat the bread after Chicken Little made that went through all that work, but you just show up to eat the bread and you want it for free. If we check our hearts and we value our community, the answer right now with SNAP being cut off isn't giving all our produce away for free. We
Mm.
cannot sustain and survive like that. So
Mm.
I behoove everyone, check your hearts. We can't grow our community because we were programmed through race, through slavery and racism to fight and pit against each other. That's how they kept 60 muscular slaves from overturning with only two white men on a horse because they pitted them against each other to where they thought that they could not overpower. That still exists in our community. So if you come to me, you want me to set your church garden up? You got 16 refrigerators, 20 trucks, and you got another 20 churches, and we're going to start a grocery store. I'm going to say, skirt, skirt, hold on. If you're looking for profit, 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 that's probably not the right partnership because it takes a lot of work, sweat, equity, and your heart and your values have to be aligned because the black community doesn't want to pay the value of a farmer that is farming
Mm.
correctly, that's building the soil. I'm going to make sure that I'm growing produce and everybody that's associated with us. They are growing produce to make sure that you're not going to have prostate cancer. You're not going to have leaky gut. You're not going to have asthma, eczema, and no nutrition. You're going to be weak after eating four watermelons. You still having Charlie horses because it ain't got no nutrition in it. It's lacking. They don't spray it. It's, you know what I'm saying? But once you eat our produce, you see the difference. It tastes different. But I don't sit around and spray these squash bug borers. I don't compost it. I don't pick it off. We've washed our plant. We've toiled that soil. We've work, rabbit poop, transport manure, hard work and sweat to make sure that what goes back into our community. The conventional okra is $4.99 a pound. My okra might be $6 a pound. You don't want to pay that? but you're going to eat that which is non-nutritional. So that's the problem in our community. We have to expand the dollar, and we need to rotate the dollar in our community. If I can drive 22 miles, and I mean 22 minutes to go get produce to find a seeded watermelon, to even find a seeded watermelon, I have to drive 22 minutes. That is outrageous. So I grew as many as I could this year. But will someone pay me for my watermelon like they would pay at the HEB? In these times, no, because our heart has been divided, and we have to remember, in order to build this black community, we can't have free food pantries. Because let me tell you, it takes a lot of gas and money and sweat equity to even have a food pantry. And the policies now are cutting the food pantries off. What are we to do? We need to value, check our hearts and our values. We want to build a community. There are people that want to pay. They want to pay our producers. They want to pay the black farmers. They want to pay high dollar. I want it from my people grown locally. But there are fewer of us. So that's my spiel. I really want us to check our hearts. And if you are growing, I want to tell you a scenario I discovered yesterday at Texas A&M AgriLife. They run the states on nutrition and agriculture. A gentleman of color bought some seedlings from someone for $1.50. He returned to his church community and he sold them for $6 and $8 a piece. They were dried and they were dead. And I said, well, I'm glad he made profit. I hope he put the profit back into the community. But that's not how you do things. How about all of those that were sharing that story? How about you plant some seeds and some seedlings and you sell them for $2 to $3, because they are $4 at the local nursery, but that's the only nursery. You see what I'm saying? The value in the heart of your intention. We do have to charge for the work that goes into it. So we have to condition ourselves to stop looking for free. That's not going to be the answer. We cannot have a black grocery store if everything in it is free, right? That's the issue right now. We do not have a black grocery store. And in the black grocery stores, we cannot expect them. We should be supporting them so that they're not forced to go out and buy from Sam's and Walmart, change the label and put it in their grocery store because they got to keep up with demand. No, we need to honor and respect the system. We have to understand it takes love and work, and it takes money for us to thrive. And I'm on. That's it for our
Good,
land.
good word. Good word. We didn't get a chance this time. We're going to, y'all can tell us in the chat, if you want us to reboot this, because Uche's got so many more questions. Continue this next month, or if not, we'll do another topic. But I do want to end it here, because if we open it up for Q&A, I don't want to cut anyone short. So Uche, can you share with our listeners, our attendees, how, if they like what they hear right now, how they can participate and get involved with us? If you stick around. If not, I'll do it. Oh, there you are. Did you hear my question?
I apologize. My internet is spotty right now, so I do apologize to everyone. I am not.
It's almost like you came back a different person. It was pretty cool, man.
I'm trying to stay composed with everything. But yes, I did not hear your question, Bill.
No,
but
I just wanted you to share with folks how they can engage if this is their first time joining us.
Awesome. If it's your first time joining us, thank you so much. I do apologize for the background noise. I'm in a coffee shop right now. But if you would like to engage with us, please follow us on all social media channels, Black Farmers CBO, on all social media channels. We're on TikTok, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're on Threads. We'd love to have you. If you would like to engage with us even further, we encourage you to fill out our small farmer intake form. I'm going to drop that link in the chat right now. The small farmer intake form is an opportunity where you can share more about who you are as a farmer and how you can participate and learn about some of the activities that we are doing. And One of the key things that folks that may not know is that with our small farm, when you fill out a small farmer intake form, you actually start to participate within our cohort. What is our cohort? Well, our cohort is a group of farmers that we get together and we educate. We provide knowledge-based information to our farmers whereby they can learn whether it's soil health, whether it's food safety, whether that's understanding how to make money as a farmer, whether it's understanding about USDA opportunities. It's all in there. And there's more. We also have other activities that we are also introducing to our small farmers that participate with us. And the great thing is that it's free. It's free to be a part of it. It's free to get education. We are not trying to hold nothing back from you as a farmer. We want to make sure that you are supported throughout the process. There are
It's
other
hey,
things we have. Yeah.
hey, Uche, it's free now.
It's free now. Yes, yes. Thank you. It is free now. But that's one of the key things. We want to make sure we're not gatekeeping in any
No.
way, shape, or form. We want to make sure that you're aware. And at the same time, we'll teach you ways and processes that you can also sell your produce. I'm sure some of you are already selling in some of the farmers market in your area, but we want to take it even further. So if you're on the call right now, if you're on here, if you signed up, you're going to get an email with all this information and how you can be a better partner and we can learn from you on how we can be a better partner to you as well. And as Arlena, Ryan, Phil would say all the time, we are here to help you grow. So please do not be a stranger. Join us. Let's be the exception.
That's right. That's right, y'all. Please don't self-eliminate based on where you're at. As we speak, our main base is right in centralized East Texas. We're doing stuff in Dallas locally. We're doing things in Houston right now. We've got a couple of events this week. We got an event going on right now in Cashmere Gardens out in Houston. We're over in San Antonio where Uriah and Uche are right now. And we have key partners in the Austin area and everything in between, whether you're rural or not. So please don't self-eliminate. We've really gone out our way to scale this thing where we can be hybrid, where we can get together like we are right now, but also with events that are localized. So please don't self-eliminate, and I'll take it back to you, Uche, unless we're done.
All right. I don't see any questions, and I want to be cautious and courteous to everyone and their time. But like Phil said, we are definitely going to do this again, and we have way more information to share with you all. So as we're going to, oh wait, what? I spoke too soon. We have a question. We have a question. Angela, you're the only question we're going to take just to be courteous to everyone. Her question is, in addition to our land being stolen from us for generations, do you think integration also had an effect on our people moving from agriculture? Yeah.
She
Um,
she means
uh,
integration, like
yeah,
all the
like
cultures and races coming together.
yeah, I think it did in the way that we got away from who we are. 150 years ago, we were the farmers. There was no other farmers. Now, fast forward to today, in the story I just shared about the young lady who's scrunching up her face. That's who we are. We are growers as a people. Not saying that everybody needs to grow if they don't want to. That's who we are. That's who we are culturally. That's why they went over across the seas and brought us over because we understood how to grow, especially in places like Texas where the heat can be intense, and the bioregion and all that. So I think yes, because we were so eager as a people and the mental conditioning behind how that took place, great that we integrated, but guess what? Just like I said before, wasn't no other ra ethnic group falling for the okie doke. Yeah, you can go buy at their places. Yeah, we want to integrate, but we're going to keep our businesses. We're going to keep our gardens. And so, yes, to me, that was an impact because we were, as the book said, the miseducation of the Negro. That's real stuff, and a big part of that is our food and agriculture.
Hey, can I throw something in there? Um, I do want to mention, yeah, the integration part was definitely a turning point because what happened was that, you know, when you have your own people teaching your children, they're gonna learn what they need to learn. And so what happened was we got, like I keep saying that word, educated. We got degrees, but we forgot how to grow food. We got degrees and a little bit of money, but we sold the land. And so we didn't, something happened where we were not want to be growers of food anymore. And that was part of that integration piece was we lost the teachers that really said like, hey, Arlena, you're gonna learn to read. You're going to be a lady. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. Phil, stand up straight. Why are you looking like that? Why are you eating that for? We had people, our teachers really cared about the success of our communities. And when we brought in like different nationalities to teach us, this is what we're looking at, the result of a generation or two of teachers that were not part of your community, that were really in competition with your community, and you brought them in to teach us. And now, we got a whole bunch of issues. But yeah, integration was a bad thing. And we have to go back to teaching our own. We definitely have to show our children need to see us growing. They need to see us creating products from what we grow. They got to see it. This is the part, this is true education. They don't even have to understand what you're doing. They just know that, like, man, look, all this food, and I know, look, at this 7:31, I'm gonna stop talking because I could talk about this is the, we have, that's a huge thing. Yes, yes, yes. Matter of fact, it happened all over the planet, by the way. All over the planet. Other nationalities begin to teach. All of a sudden, the land is no longer there. Now we got a book. We got like this philosophy, and you lost all your land. So this is what we're looking at right now. And what's happening right now, you're looking at a transition going back to that. And I'm gonna leave that alone.
I was gonna say, before we go, it's also trauma associated with growing on the land. Generations after the 1930s felt that they were enslaved. They were sharecroppers, and it was lowly work. That they were forced. They were paid pennies on a dollar, so they had to go to industrialization. My parents grew up on the land. They farmed the land. They went away from it because they needed to make more money. They wanted that quote unquote American dream, but they were gardening and growing wherever we were. They continued to grow, and they didn't stop and say, "Come on over and help me." So, every generation after that, it was a punishment. I felt like I was in purgatory. They made me work the land. It was always a punishment. Can't hang out with the friends, go to the baseball game. You got to go to the farm and pick. What? Why y'all hate me? So that we have to return to remembering that we have to change a paradigm change in our minds to remember how valuable we are. We are stewards of the land. All food, we were able to grow all the food to sustain. So once we get off that trauma, but young kids think that to work on the land is slavery. And they think like, what?
Wait, wait,
It's
hold, wait, yo, stop, no, 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 listen, let me say something to you, Arlena. I feel what you're saying, but will you take some children out to a farm?
they love
You're
it though.
like,
They do.
you're
They
like,
do.
yay!
Yes.
You put them in a
Yes.
classroom, a gray classroom with fluorescent lights, locked up in a room,
They
and they're
do.
not touching stuff. And here, taste this. Look at this. This is how this tool works. You free them. We can't. Yeah, yeah. It might have
I
been that
agree.
way. Maybe it felt that way for you, but it didn't. My father said, "Hey, we're gonna do this," and I felt powerful when I was able to give somebody food that they didn't have. And our young people need to know. They need to
Yes.
see the power of growing food. This is the reason why I published Let's Grow, the entrepreneurship, the inventors. And it was not that way. Like maybe it was for you, but it definitely wasn't that way. It might have been
City
some for
kids.
some of my
City kids
siblings,
thought that.
but I know for a fact, like you take some young children out to see some cattle or land, they're like, wow, this is what they need. We got them locked up right now, and they're like, dude, I got to get out of here. You
That's
know,
why that's why
you know,
agritourism is doing so well because there are farmers here in Dallas, just groups of kids coming, and their parents and adults are coming, and they're realizing, oh my gosh, this is real. So you're absolutely right. We have to change what they see. Even they had that narrative, but my Enoch and my sons, they coming to the farm. They're falling in love with it.
All right, y'all. I really appreciate everyone's giving their time. We are at 7:35 and we are way past our time. So I appreciate you all for joining us for this webinar. It was amazing. It was great. It was very informative. We all learned something today. I hope you did. I sure did. And for sure, we're going to have a part two, y'all. We're going to learn more. We're going to share because there's a lot more we need to share with you about the truth, about our food, and what we have in our plates. And to you all, be the exception.
all right.
Bye, y'all.